Most people don't like driving next to semi-trucks. If you're being honest, you probably speed up a little just to pass them. Not because you think something will happen, but because it feels safer not to linger. And for decades, that instinct carried people past something they never noticed at all. This is a story about America's highways, and the serial killers who use them to stalk, kill, and disappear. For years, bodies discovered along the highways were treated as isolated cases. Different states, different jurisdictions, different timelines. The effort to connect these murders began in 2004, when investigators noticed troubling patterns emerging along major routes. 5 years later, in 2009, the FBI formally announced the Highway Serial Killings Initiative, a nationwide effort to identify, link, and stop serial offenders using America's road system as cover. I've always heard about the stereotype, the idea of a killer trucker, but I had no idea how real it was, or how widespread it was. So widespread that the FBI actually needed to create an initiative to track these crimes. The numbers are staggering. The initiative has linked roughly 850 murders along the nation's highways, almost entirely women. More than 200 cases remain active and unsolved, and the FBI has a suspect pool of around 450 individuals. What makes these crimes so difficult to link is the nature of the work itself. Long-haul trucking is one of the most common professions among serial killers, not because driving a truck makes someone dangerous, but because it offers mobility, isolation, and the freedom to operate undetected across state lines. But it's not just the highways that hide them. There's another reason, a far more uncomfortable one. Many of the victims were already invisible. These victims shared similar circumstances. They were people already living on the margins. They included sex workers, often referred to as lot lizards, at truck stops, runaways, people experiencing homelessness, people struggling with drug addiction, and just people hitchhiking, stranded, or simply trying to get somewhere safe. These were people less likely to be reported missing quickly, less likely to be believed, and far less likely to have their cases connected across jurisdictions. This wasn't randomness. It was the exploitation of the vulnerable and the invisible. And no case illustrates why the FBI's initiative exists more clearly than the one man who drove America's highways for years without drawing attention at all. Meet Robert Ben Rhoades, also known as the truck stop killer. To the people around him, he was unremarkable. Another rig at the truck stop, another semi passing on the road. But inside his vehicle, Rhoades had constructed something else entirely. Hidden within the sleeper cab was a makeshift torture chamber, outfitted with chains, restraints, and locks. It wasn't designed for transport, it was designed for captivity. Between 1975 and 1990, Rhoades is suspected of torturing, raping, and killing more than 50 women, with some estimating those numbers to be in the hundreds. In cases where he picked up couples, the pattern was chillingly consistent. The male companion was often killed almost immediately. The woman was kept alive, held for days, sometimes weeks, as the truck continued moving. One case in particular reveals the full scope of what Rhoades was capable of. In February of 1990, 14-year-old Regina K. Walters ran away from her home in Pasadena, Texas, with her 18-year-old boyfriend, Ricky Lee Jones. They were hitchhiking when Rhoades picked them up. Jones was murdered shortly after, shot in the head and left along a Texas roadway. Regina wasn't killed. Instead, she was kept alive. For weeks, Rhoades held her captive inside his truck as he continued driving his routes, crossing state lines, stopping at truck stops, sharing highways with thousands of people who had no idea what was happening just feet away. During that time, Regina was repeatedly tortured and sexually assaulted. And then, playing a sick game, Rhoades called Regina's father from a payphone. "I made some changes," he told him. "I cut her hair." When her father asked if Regina was still alive, the line went dead. In early March of 1990, Rhoades strangled Regina with baling wire. Her remains were later discovered in the loft of an abandoned barn in Illinois. What makes Regina's case especially haunting isn't just how long she was held. It's what Rhoades chose to keep. When investigators later searched his home, they found photographs of Regina, alive, restrained, and visibly terrified. Among them was the infamous final image. In the photograph, Regina is standing inside an old barn, wearing a black dress and oversized high heels. Her hair has been cut extremely short. She appears frozen, frightened, and aware that something is terribly wrong. The photograph was taken in the same barn where her body would later be found. The photos weren't souvenirs, they were trophies. Proof that for Rhoades, the crime wasn't just about killing. It was about control, about possession, about turning a moving vehicle into a private prison that could cross the entire country unseen. Rhoades wasn't caught because his crimes were connected. He wasn't stopped because the system worked. He was stopped by chance. In April of 1990, an Arizona state trooper noticed a truck pulled over along Interstate 10 with its hazard lights on. Inside the cab, he found a naked woman, handcuffed and screaming. Thanks to the trooper, she survived. But without that moment, without luck, the full scope of his violence might never have been uncovered. Cases like Robert Rhoades are exactly why the Highway Serial Killings Initiative exists. The initiative was designed to do what individual departments couldn't: share information across jurisdictions, track movement patterns, identify repeat behaviors early, and help local authorities connect seemingly unrelated crimes. Since the initiative began, it has helped law enforcement identify and arrest multiple suspects linked to dozens of murders across state lines. Cases that would have likely remained disconnected if it weren't for national data sharing. It can't bring back the victims from the past, but it can make sure that future killers aren't left to roam unnoticed. America's highways were built to connect cities, to move people, and to keep this country in motion. And the vast majority of truck drivers are law-abiding, hard-working people doing a job that keeps this country running. But for some, the roads became something else entirely. A place where they can hunt freely, unseen, for years. The question the initiative asks now isn't whether these killers exist. It's how many are still out there, and whether we'll find them before it's too late.